Ray joins the guys to discuss Thiago Alcantara's future and preview the return of the Bundesliga.
It's Thursday, September 17th, 2020, and this is the Gab and Juls show. You know why I referenced that? You know what happened 20 years ago?
No.
Lionel Messi rocked up at Barcelona, and I'll tell you what, it was such a big day in Barcelona's history that I will reference this time and again today. But anyway, let's move on because we have a big show for you. Serie A kicking off this weekend. We've got quick hits coming up. Thiago Alcantara looking to be on the move. But let's start at the top. The Bundesliga. Who better than Derek Ray, the man who will be calling these games for ESPN, joining us on the line.
Is this his debut as well? If it is, he has to do like some sort of song or initiation or something like that.
I'm sure there's some Scottish fight song that he can deliver to us later on. Derek, welcome in. Let's go right at the top. Thiago Alcantara, multiple sources, including, of course, our very own Mark Ogden, reporting that Liverpool have agreed a €30 million, £27 million fee with Bayern Munich. Personal terms TBD, but it looks like that's about done. What kind of player are they getting? Should they be concerned about all the games he's missed over the years? Should they be concerned about the fact that he's 29 years old? How does he fit into this Liverpool team?
I think he fits well, you know. I think as I look at Thiago, and yeah, it's interesting because in Germany, not everybody has appreciated him down the years, every step of the way. But when he's on his game, I mean, my goodness, we are talking about a beautiful footballer. And we saw that really under Hansi Flick last season. There were doubts about Thiago going into the campaign when Niko Kovac was still in charge. But, I mean, I think we're talking about somebody who, in technical terms, and when it comes to actually delivering on the pitch, really when he does it, is a player who is in the upper echelon of central midfield players in the world. So Liverpool have been monitoring this quite clearly. They obviously didn't fancy the price to begin with, but Bayern, as Bayern do, have driven, I'm not going to say a hard bargain, but probably a fair bargain from their point of view. And as you said, Gab, it looks as though it's happening.
Jules, I'm assuming this means that Wijnaldum's gone now,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
I mean, there's a report saying, oh, they don't need to sell anybody, but in the real world, he's got a year left. You're not giving this dude a new contract. Yeah. What does it mean for Bayern, though, Derek? Because I look at this, and please tell me if I'm being a little bit chicken little about this, but they're going into the season with three wingers, and one of them is Leroy Sané, a phenomenal player, but a guy who spent the best part of the last couple seasons injured. In central midfield, with Thiago gone, you're looking at Tolisso, Joshua Kimmich, Leon Goretzka, and Joseph buddy Nico Cruzes, who nobody seems to like.
I do.
Zirkzee, Thomas Muller, Zirkzee is the backup to Lewandowski up front. Or you can move Muller there, but then you need to put somebody else in midfield. At right back, it's still Benjamin Pavard, who's a center back impersonating a right back, unless you put Kimmich there, but then you're down in midfield. Are they a little short? Do they need to bring in new players to be sure of their umpteenth Bundesliga title?
You could argue that. You could argue if there is.
I am arguing that. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I don't know if you're necessarily wrong because, and I'll tell you why. I think if you look at last season, we said this as well. I remember having a look at Bayern going into the campaign and even during the season and thinking, yeah, you know, if Lewandowski goes down, then you're down to Zirkzee, and okay, he can do it as a substitute. He can do it on a one-off occasion, but maybe not over the course of several matches. I always think, Gab and Julien, that Bayern find a way around these things. And, you know, last season, they say necessity is the mother of invention. They made David Alaba, into a centre-back, and nobody was really predicting that at the start of the season.
That's because Zule and Lucas Hernandez got hurt.
Yes,
that wouldn't happen if they don't get hurt.
Right, so they come up with a solution. Who's to say they couldn't come up with another solution like that? I mean, Alaba, for example, you know, we know he plays in midfield, has played in midfield for his country. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but I'm saying that I think Bayern have solutions within their squad to be able to do that. You mentioned Tolisso. He's somebody who's been frustrated because he hasn't played as much as probably he envisaged when he signed. Cuisance, I, like Julien, think he is a very good talent. Maybe, you know, so far hasn't been there in terms of the mental side of it, but I think he has potential.
All right. You mentioned Alaba there, of course, there's another one. We're not sure if he's still going to be there next season, but TBD. Jules.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Dortmund a bit with you, Derek, because I'm a big Lucien Favre fan, like Gab, and I think they can push Bayern quite a long way, especially if Jadon Sancho stays. If he doesn't stay, it's a different story. But if he stays, I just like the look of them. I don't know where you stand in the Lucien Favre barometer of love, or not so much love like me and Gab. But I do think that after being so close 2 years ago, not so close last year, but maybe something can happen this year, or am I just in dreamland?
No, I think you and I are on the same wavelength with regards to Dortmund and Favre. I know that there was this big debate at the end of last season. Should they retain somebody who, in the minds of many, had failed because, he didn't catch Bayern, didn't really get close to Bayern in the end. But I think you can see what Favre has done. And if you talk to people at Dortmund, they all rave about him. The people who are close to the team, they say what he does, how he works with his players is to be commended. And I think he deserves one more chance. And so I'm glad he's got that chance. Now, the doubts I have about Dortmund are the same doubts that I had a year ago. They're all defensive doubts. I think middle to front, they're excellent. They will score goals. They will provide the ammunition for Erling Haaland. I don't think that is a question mark at all. I still am not sure that they've done enough defensively. Thomas Meunier, yes, he's good and he will help. But do you look at Dortmund and say that is a watertight team that will keep the door closed?
No, I can answer that. The answer is no. They're not.
But no.
We gotta. Hummel, Sean, he's had a whole year, blah, 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 give him more time, sort out defensively. I remain to be convinced. We're running out of time, sadly, but I gotta ask you, Florian Wirtz, I am told, no need for Kai Havertz, this kid's the real deal. Just turned 17. Tell me about him.
Just turned 17. They got him from Köln, the team from just a few miles away. The bigger club, actually, in terms of support, but not in terms of what they've delivered on the pitch.
Is he Havertz?
I think this guy's... is he Havertz? I think he could well be, yes. I think in 2 years' time, we might be saying Florian Wirtz is Kai Havertz, 2 years removed.
Derek, thanks so much. Look out for him. He'll be calling, of course, Bayern season opener against Schalke. So Florian Wirtz, Jules, it's all in the hands of your friends and mine, Peter Box. Once again, this guy gets the jewel.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
And now to look ahead to the return of the Serie A, here's Gab and Juls.
All right, Jules, that was more than enough Bundesliga. How about some Serie A?
Are you excited?
Are you excited?
No, but I mean, more than a normal Serie A season starting.
I always get excited. I love football. I watch almost any kind of football. However, this is exciting because there's so many question marks around Juventus. I think, the general sense, and many people feel this, is that Juve kind of won the title last year by default. They changed. They moved away from Maurizio Sarri. They still don't have a center forward as we speak. You're looking Dzeko maybe, Suarez. Who'd you go for?
Neither of them. I don't like the 34, 33-year-old that you get for short-term fix.
But the idea is...
when you already have a 35, soon 36 to be as good as he is, Cristiano Ronaldo in your team.
Well, leaving aside the fact that these guys are basically kids relative to Zlatan. But that is kind of Juve's feeling, is that they have to win now. While Cristiano's still there, so if you get a striker on a free transfer, they're paying for decisions they made earlier.
True, but the big objective for Juve is the Champions League, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you win another Serie A title or not, you've already won 9 in a row. Can you win the Champions League with Dzeko up front or with Suarez up front? Shouldn't you think a bit more?
I think so. I mean, if you're talking about this season, I think this season, Dzeko and Suarez up. You're talking about a guy who can play X amount of games, in knockout rounds, right? Presumably you can get to the quarterfinals or whatever on your own, and this is where you need him. You know my feelings on 30-something strikers, right? I've gotten stick from people for being critical of Arsenal and Willian, and look. But once you go down that road, and you're stuck in a corner, which is the corner that Arsenal risk being stuck in, this is what you're going to do. Inter, I think the conventional wisdom is that they're best placed to do it.
Surely. It's all about if they can cope with the pressure, if Conte can cope with the pressure. So the first game that doesn't really go the way he wants to, they maybe drop points. If he goes crazy again and they sort of lose their nerves, they lose their mind, they lose their nerves, a bit like they did that time last season, that's good for them. Otherwise, they should be favourite.
It's still very short-termist, I think, from Inter. But again, that's what we're seeing now. Obviously, they're really pushing for Vidal. Diego Godin is sticking around. As far as we know, Alexis Sanchez, of course, confirmed.
I've got one for you. Could this be Atalanta's year? Because Conte can lose his chisel, and this could go bad. Because Juve and PLO, you don't know, they might need a bit of time to adapt and get into the groove of things, okay? Maybe Milan and Ibra doesn't score, they don't have another goal scorer, I don't know anything. But could this be Atalanta year?
You never want to write them off after what we've seen. However, I would assume people to some degree are going to adapt and figure out how to do it. Also, there's still a chance that Papu Gomez could be on his way. You know, again, Malinowski's great, but you really need to step up if you're going to replace Papu. And of course, the Papu dance. Also questions about Ilicic, who was injured for all that time. So I don't know about that. I mean, I think if it's somebody else, I kind of like what... Obviously, Lazio came very close last season. Yeah. They've hung on to virtually all their talented players, which is a big plus. However, I think they kind of overachieved. I can't see Mobile pulling that crap off again this year. But then again, I've written Mobile off so many times.
And they will have the Champions League as well. Last year they had no European competition, and this year they had Champions League. You
know, again, they've added different players, but I think there's a question mark there. I think Napoli... Potentially, not the biggest Gattuso fan, but hey...
Osimhen,
right?
Come on, he could be the king of Naples.
There you go. Milan, I think, are really interesting. I don't know about winning the title this year. Gino, I wasn't on board with the Ibrahimovic signing, and there's still the Donnarumma shadow in the background, with his contract expiring at the end of the season, but
surely Tonali and Benacer in midfield should excite you.
Tonali, Benacer, Kessie excites everybody. I mean, I think it's probably the second best midfield in Serie A after Inter. But I think the thing to remember is, and this doesn't just apply in Serie A, the transfer window is still open until October 5th. There's so many players who've got talented veterans who they need to park somewhere. They need to put somewhere just to fill space. And these are still good players who can make a difference. And I think we're still going to see quite a lot of change with some of these Serie A clubs and some of these other clubs around Europe. So, again, let's get together when the window closes and let's go and reevaluate everything.
Welcome back to ESPN FC presents the Gab and Juls show. Now with some of the biggest stories from the world of football, it's time for quick hits. Over to Gab and Juls in London.
Right, enough of all that. How about some quick hits?
Let's go, Gab.
Tottenham faced Lokomotiv Plovdiv in the Europa League Thursday night, but we're not going to talk about that because it's marginal. The big news is that multiple reports suggest that they're about to bring back Gareth Bale on loan. Real Madrid reportedly paying half of his wages, TBD. Jules, does this excite you? And does it excite you to the point that you're willing to sacrifice Dele Alli, who's been left out of the Spurs squad for the Europa League?
Yeah, we keep Dele Alli for a bit later. But Bale, I love the stories. I don't think it's a very good idea. And sometimes those stories of the prodigal son coming back to the club 7 years after leaving for record fee at the time, etc., etc. Sometimes it doesn't work. He might get injured.
The reports say that is Daniel Levy's just driving this more than. Does this mean Daniel Levy has a heart and emotions?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, he was apparently negotiating for Sergio Reguilon, and then he thought, hang on a minute, what about maybe? I mean, I think it would be a great coup for them. I think the fans would be excited. The fans would be happy. Gareth, I think, certainly would be happy, and you would believe he's hungry to come back and play for Spurs again and all of that. So I think it makes sense in a way, although I still think before bringing someone like him, they should have thought more about strengthening in other positions. I still think they need a centre forward with a different profile. Yeah, okay, Bale can play centrally, but it's not the same. I still think at the back they're not good enough. I love Reguilon, and we'll come to that later. But
all right, wait now. This is fun. So I'll tell you what, if you got to sacrifice Bale, if you have to sacrifice Ali, who's one of your central midfielders, and you don't have that many, to make Bale work, even short term, I'm not so on board with this.
But Ali's not going to go anywhere, right?
There's reports. I don't know. Time will tell. Hopefully not.
But Spurs aren't done either, Gab, because they're on the verge of tying up a deal for Sergio Reguilon, the Real Madrid left back, for around £27 million, 30 million euro. This is a great coup. I think it's a bargain and a really, really, really good signing.
I think he's a tremendous signing. This whole thing about, he's linked to United, but then reports were saying that United didn't want him because Real Madrid insisted on a buyback clause over 2 years. You know what? My back clause. The guy guy is a Real Madrid guy. He's going to want to go, whether there's a buyback clause or not, right? You could negotiate different bonuses, whatever. He comes here for 2 years. He does really, really well. Real Madrid already have a guy in his position in Ferland Mendy. In fact, they've had two. They've got Marcelo as well. So there's no hurry to get back. Bring him in. Not a lot of money. Very gifted player. Interesting implication here, Ben Davies. Also gives you the option perhaps of playing with a back three sometimes.
Yeah, of course,
with Davies in there. So I'm totally on board with this.
Me too. I think it's great. Great signing.
Paris Saint-Germain needed an injury time winner from Julian Draxler to land their first victory of the season, 1-0 over Metz. And obviously, because this is PSG, they had a player sent off. This time it was Abdou Diallo. But Jules, this is all overshadowed by the wild finish in the PSG Marseille game Sunday night and the 5 red cards in a minute. Walk us through the fallout.
Yeah, we had the sanctions from the discipline committee on Wednesday night, almost at the same time as the game finished, or during the PSG Metz game. So it's a 6-match ban for Kurzawa, who's the one who
started everything, yes.
Or at least threw the most punches and kicks on Amavi. Amavi got 3 games for retaliating. Neymar, the big question was, we were wondering how much he would get for his little slap on the back of Alvaro's head. He got 2 games. So did Paredes, who started the whole brawl by being crazy for the 15 minutes he stayed on the pitch. And then Benedetto got just 1 game. The big thing, though, is the racial abuse claims by Neymar towards Alvaro. That's under investigation, so we will know that a bit later. And for the Di Maria spitting on Alvaro, they've called him in for next week. I think he could be in big trouble, Di Maria.
They have video evidence.
Yeah, you could see it on the footage. I mean, I saw it during the game, to be fair.
Right.
But now they're looking at it. It could be bad for him.
All right.
Manuel Le Gras, the president of the French Football Federation, came in with interesting comments on racism in football. He said, when a black guy, forgive me, scores a goal, the whole stadium is standing. Not really sure what's going there. So quite frankly, the phenomenon of racism in sport and in football in particular does not exist, or it's little. Is this guy for real?
I have no idea where this comes from. I mean, to go from one incident to going and making big pronouncements. They also cited something where they said, there's only 1% of the incidents, I don't even know how they define incidents in French football, are of the racist nature. If you want to say this doesn't happen every week, fine. But also, that's pretty tone-deaf to say when you have an incident. Just say, there's no place for this. We're investigating it. We take this seriously. Move on. You don't have to say the sky is falling and everybody's a racist, but equally, don't minimize it like this. And also, are we still back in the 1930s where we think that you can't be racist if you applaud somebody who scores a goal for your team, a person of color?
I know, exactly. And the guy is he's the top of French football. He's been there. He's seen Balotelli. He's seen stuff in Corsica. He's seen all those issues we've had with racism lately in the last 5 years, and he still comes with that kind of rubbish. It's a disgrace.
Going back to last March, you told me Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang would sign a new deal with Arsenal, and now he has!
Hey,
now he's locked up until 2023, but Jules, is he really the highest paid player at the club, earning more than Mesut Ozil, as some have reported?
He isn't, but he got a really good deal. And I think
not more than Ozil?
No, more than Ozil.
All right,
I don't know where that's coming from, but you know what? He believes he deserves it. He wanted to stay to become a legend at the club, leave a legacy, build a legacy, all of that. He feels right at the club. Arteta really wanted him to stay. So did the dressing room. So did the fans. I think it made sense. It really made sense for Arsenal.
You know my feelings on this. If you want to keep Alba, that's fine. I think it means you got to ditch Lacazette and you shouldn't have signed William. But hey, I'm in the minority here, evidently.
Let's see how it goes. Manchester City are reportedly contemplating Atletico Madrid Jose Jimenez or Sevilla's Diego Carlos to sign as an alternative to Kalidou Koulibaly, which it seems that this deal is still very difficult to make, and especially if Napoli keep on the price that they want of 80 million euros. Who would be a better fit, Jimenez or Diego Carlos? Or Koulibaly?
I like Jimenez better. Also, he's not left-footed, so they have now all of a sudden a whole gaggle of left-footed center backs. But honestly, Jimenez, they're talking buyout clause 120 million. You'd want to work that down a lot. He is 4 years younger than Koulibaly, but I don't know. I still think this gets done, and I think Koulibaly comes.
Yeah,
that's my gut feeling. But
no one is a defender, can play like Koulibaly in those 3 that we mentioned, even not Diego Carlos.
It's the 20th anniversary of the day when Lionel Messi arrived in Barcelona. Today, we're celebrating.
Yeah, happy birthday.
And yesterday, he celebrated early with a goal and a win over Girona.
Red pass for Trincao on the Coutinho goal.
Okay, but Jules, it's never easy at this club. What's the deal with Koeman not being legally allowed to match?
Well, it seems that Koeman cannot manage the club, cannot be on the bench because they are yet to agree a severance package for Kike Setien being sacked at the end of last season. That is, I know he finished late, but it's still last season. They haven't sorted out one. This club is a mess. The
my God!
hierarchy at that club, the board, the president, Bartomeu.
Barto, what are you doing?
It's just time for you to just retire from life. Just retire from life, all in all. Gab and Juls' master's thesis was published this week, and it basically tells you exactly everything that he's going to do as a manager. I assume you've read it.
I have read it. I read it this morning. It goes into extreme detail, all the defensive movements. If you're a tactics nerd, it's great for you to read. Let's see if he puts it on the pitch. I don't think it's going to be quite as easy as we expect, but it's very Guardiola, Klopp, early Van Gaal-esque, put it that way.
That's great. I think everybody's excited to see what he can do now, although it's a big gamble. I maintain that.
After Uli Hoeneß's words at the weekend, Bayern continued blowing kisses at Pini Zahavi, David Alaba's agent, with Hassan Salihamidzic saying Zahavi thinks in other dimensions that his wage demands are crazy. Maybe other clubs are crazy like that. We're not. Jules, how will this end up?
This will end up by Alaba staying a year, not renewing his contract, going on a free next summer. Bayern are going to be gutted to have been so tight with not giving the money he wants, and some other club will be very happy to sign still a youngish Alaba on a free. According to multiple reports, Iowa billionaire Kyle Kroos is about to acquire Parma. That would mean that after Roma, Fiorentina, Bologna, Milan, and I don't know how many other clubs, all Americans.
Well,
they're owning your league, man. What's going on?
25% of Serie A will be in North American hands. I know Joyce Saputo would get upset if we call him American because the guy's actually Canadian. Look, I think it's simple. The league is objectively undervalued because it's been mismanaged, and people see an opportunity. Simple as that.
Yeah, but as we saw with Jim Palota, it's not always easy to go and own a club and have success.
Now, Jules, I know you love your jerseys and your social media. I have here a list compiled by somebody named Compare.bet, which I've never heard of, so this could all be nonsense. They have a list. It's a list of the most Instagrammed club kits out there. Now, I know you haven't seen this. Yeah. Scout's honor. You want to guess your top three?
Okay, so I would say that one, I go for the easy one.
Just give me your top three in any order.
Okay, Real Madrid.
No.
I think there's a surprise.
I'm guessing he goes 0 for 3.
There's a surprise.
Go on, Real Madrid, no.
I would go for like a team like Pescara, with the...
No, Pescara, come on,
yeah,
man.
with the...
No, I know, it's nice as Dolphin. They're not in. They're all big teams.
Arsenal.
Arsenal are second.
Yeah, Arsenal is second with, the Bruce Banana one, or...
I have no idea, it doesn't specify. Come on, get on with it.
First one is Ajax.
No, all right. You've had your three choices. Top three are Juventus, Arsenal, and Liverpool. I know, this surprised the hell out of me too. Manchester United are fifth.
What PSG?
PSG.
I was going to say PSG, and then you're going to say stuff.
PSG are in 9th place. Three Italian clubs in the top 10 because Milan are 8th and Inter are 10th. Listen, I don't know what the hell it means, but hey, people like their Instagram, people like their kid.
Oh, that's good. Well, and to finish, we had to talk about Diego Simeone, guy who tested positive, Gab, for the coronavirus. Is this a bad news for Diego or more for the virus?
You know what? That's exactly the joke they were making in Spain. They said, uh-oh, virus, now you've met your match because the mighty Diego. Look, we joke about this. It is a serious disease. Yeah. We wish him well, but we have to put it in there. It is funny. We love El Cholo. Shout out to Benfica, who will be watching the Champions League on television. Sorry to see you go.
Sorry, guys.
That's all we got.